Welcome to the Zen Mind Show with Michelle and Dr. Pat. Rapid Zen transformation. Are you looking for healing processes that require no financial investment? Then this show is your beacon of hope. Hi, I'm Michelle Carboni, a rapid transformational therapist with over 700 hours of training in hypnotherapy, coaching, trauma, and intuition. Together with Dr. Pat, we will be providing the resources and guidance you need to take meaningful steps towards your personal healing and growth. From mindfulness techniques to actionable wisdom, each episode will offer invaluable insights. Join us today as we explore the tools and practices that anyone can do and have access to. Join the Zen revolution. Transform your life today. We are a community dedicated to supporting each other as we strive for a balanced and Zen-filled life. Stay tuned with me and Dr. Pat. The Zen Mind Show starts now.
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you here. I get to share the stage here with the most amazing Michelle Carboni, Rapid Zen Transformation, the Zen Mind Show. Today, this is so important, healing the wounds, the role of hypnosis and coaching in OTRS recovery, and you're going to hear what that is. Michelle, thank you for taking this topic on. I don't know if, can you see my background a little bit?
Yeah.
And okay, I don't know what part of this the audience is going to be able to see. In the background, directly behind me, is a watercolor painting that was done by my acupuncturist mother when I was going through, let's just call it healing, for lack of a better term. All the other pieces are glasswork that I did to help me express myself during healing. Oh. Now, what has that got to do with today's show? Well, a lot of times there are things going on in our woundedness that cannot be gotten to by surface approaches. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot hidden.
And isn't that why we're talking about this today? How does hypnosis help? How does hypnosis plus coaching, got to put them together, how does it help in supporting people to move beyond their ongoing traumatic relationship syndrome, OTRS, because that's really what we want to get under, right? Yeah. How do we move beyond it? Some of these are so deeply embedded, aren't they, the wounds?
Yeah, for sure. You know, they start in childhood, right? I mean, and then you're an adult. So these are things you've carried with you 15, 20, 40 years. It's like, they're really in there. They're in that subconscious. They're rooted.
Let's talk about what we mean by in there. Let's talk about these ongoing traumatic relationship syndrome. Let's do a recap from what we talked about in our previous episode so people can know where we're starting off here.
Sure. And I see, you know, we also talked about Cassandra syndrome, but I see that and ongoing traumatic relationship syndrome as being very intertwined because, you know, if you have Cassandra syndrome, you're in a traumatic relationship. So it's like, yeah, they go together. And I think more people have ongoing traumatic relationship syndrome than Cassandra syndrome. So we can help more people by talking about OTRS versus Cassandra. And OTRS can appear in romantic relationships, of course, but also familial relationships, friendships, work relationships. I mean, I have a girlfriend who was in a toxic work environment, you know, and was in this traumatic relationship with her boss. So it's like these can appear anywhere. And what we'll see is you'll have fear. Maybe you're walking on eggshells. You'll have anxiety, depression. Yeah, you have difficulty with boundaries and establishing boundaries. And, you know, so what we do is we're looking at how we can cope with that, how we can learn how to have boundaries, learn why am I allowing myself to be in this relationship in the first place? Why didn't I leave 10 years ago when I've been in this relationship for 20 years? So, you know, traumatic relationships have many different forms, but the underlying thing is that you're in a relationship that you're not happy in.
When we say we're in relationships we're not happy in, let's just recap for people. How do you know that's going on? All right, let's talk about the obvious. You're unhappy, you're sad, you could be depressed, but then there are other things that happen to you. Your physiology changes physically. you can start to have symptoms of this, depending upon where you are, right, Michelle?
Oh,
Where you are in the spectrum of trauma.
Yes. And so autoimmune disorders are very, very common, fibromyalgia, et cetera. But even migraines, body pains in different parts of your body. I mean, any physical symptoms, really can be an indicator. And maybe you're disassociated. Maybe you're not feeling your feelings. Maybe you're like, oh, I'm never angry. Yes, you are. You just don't feel it. You're just suppressing what you're feeling, just shoving that feeling down, because you're not allowed to feel angry or sad or frustrated or whatever you're feeling. And so you've disconnected from yourself and your feelings is a huge indicator. If you're telling me you're not angry, I'm telling you you are, and you're not feeling it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this too, because, I've heard people talk about the subconscious, the unconscious, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to refer to. I've heard people talk about it, even in my own profession, and say, it's like the enemy. Well, not really, but it's there for a reason. In the subconscious, it's like that old, what do you see? That old iceberg diagram. You ever see that? Where you draw the iceberg and there's the little tip and then there's the whole thing underneath it. And some people say that's our subconscious. What's your take on it?
Oh, yeah. I think, I love Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and his work. And, he talks about the subconscious as like 90 to 95% of our life is running by our subconscious. And that's a huge amount. And if 70% of those programs that are running are not beneficial because they're coming from some sort of traumatic event, which is, when we were cavemen, we needed that. We needed to be fearful of tigers and lions and stuff killing us and different food we couldn't eat and all that. But we don't live in that anymore. But that part of our brain is still there and very active, and it wants to protect us. And it gives us fear as a warning system. But then sometimes we get stuck in that, and we're stuck in, fight or flight or fawn or freeze. And then what do? we're in hypervigilance at that point, and you can't live that way. It's tough, so your nervous system is just a wreck.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about really the big picture end game here. It's like the Super Bowl of healing. And the thing that I'm referring to, and I'd love for you to talk about it, is these patterns that we develop. And for lack of a better word, let's just say negative thought patterns or limiting belief systems, or anything from a past abusive relationship, right?
Yeah.
And that could be everything from being hit and beat as a child, or simply verbally abused, or to even more extremes. But let's just talk about these for a minute, because I don't know if we can really heal without getting underneath the root cause. How do you approach it?
100%. And I kind of see hypnotherapy as basically shadow work.
Yeah.
We're getting at those shadow selves that we can't see, the little thing behind us that's lurking and that's going, hey, you're not safe. You need to people please. You need to, make sure that everyone around you is happy, and you need to sacrifice yourself to do that, or whatever, there's so many shadows that we all have. And so I really see shadow work as hypnotherapy as being an easier route to get to those roots of okay, why am I doing this? Why am I reacting this way in this situation? Why can't I feel calm? Why is my nervous system crazy? Why am I anxious? Why am I feeling all these feelings that I don't know what to do with? And it's all there in your subconscious. Your subconscious remembers everything.
Yeah. But, one of the things you do in your practice, and can we talk about this for a minute? You don't just combine, hypnotherapy. You also combine hypnotherapy and coaching. And that is really an important distinction I want to make. I mean, there are those of us that have studied psychology, but we don't practice clinical psychology for a very good reason. And that is, we cannot go down the pathway of being a clinician and also being able to help people in an advisory way. I mean, that was my path, to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different. But when you take coaching and belief work and deep mindset work, and move it as a partner of hypnotherapy, Is that powerful or what?
Oh, yeah, right. Because when we figured out stuff during the hypnosis session, and then we've cleared a lot of that out. But then there's that practical application. So let's say you were in a traumatic relationship, you got out, and then we've done work. We've worked with hypnotherapy, we've worked through coaching, and now you're in a new relationship. And now you're like, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And that's what, I feel like healing really happens when we're in it, when we're in that relationship, when we get triggered and we can go, and we're healed enough to go, okay, I'm being triggered. Why am I being triggered? What's going on here? Is this my 7-year-old self freaking out that because she's so insecure and she still feels insecure? Let me work with her. And, we can do that in coaching. We can kind of connect with that inner self some, and in hypnotherapy too, but like it's both. And doing the conscious work helps us with like using mindfulness and noticing how we even feel and noticing that we're getting triggered.
Yeah. It's funny because this shows up in our daily lives. I was thinking about this before the show, and I wanted to share this with you. I was thinking about two things in our pop culture that affected people in a crazy way. One was the movie Jaws, and the other one was the movie Fatal Attraction. The Fatal Attraction affected more men on the planet than I think to check their behavior than any other initiative out there. If you watch Fatal Attraction, you are certainly watching what you're doing out there, men, right? But Jaws was interesting for me. I was talking to Linda about this, and I said, I went and watched the movie, but I didn't know there was something in my unconscious about sharks and water. See, I didn't know that. And so I had a reaction to that movie, far greater reaction to the movie than the average person. I mean, clearly there were millions of people that didn't go into the water in the Northeast for like years, right? They just didn't. And even if they did, they were like, I'm not having fun. But for me, there was something that caused me to really get almost panic attacky. And I was talking to Linda about this, and I said, once I discovered that I had an earlier childhood experience in the Jersey Shore with this, then watching the movie just brought all that back. And so this is the level of root healing that I have some tools. So I know how to look back at that and say, I've got to do something. But you know what, Michelle? Most people don't.
Right.
They don't. They don't know why all of a sudden they are frozen in place. What's happening with our programming on that, and can it be reprogrammed?
Oh yeah, well, and it's basically it's like a PTSD flashback. Some of PTSD flashes back to the moment in war, accident, or whatever, right? Yeah. But also we have those like emotional flashbacks. So it's like seeing the shark didn't take you to the scene, but your nervous system thought it was happening, and you were feeling the feelings, and your heart was racing, and you were experiencing the emotions, but not knowing where they're coming from. And so that's when hypnosis is great, because we can go, okay, why is this happening? And we get in the subconscious, and then the subconscious goes, hey, here's why. This is what's going on. And you're like, oh, I didn't even remember that moment. I'd been blocking it from my conscious mind. My subconscious was protecting me from that moment because it knew it was painful, but it also was hurting me because it was in that process, right? And it's amazing how we can really dig in and find those moments that you may not have. I mean, I went back to moments when have had hypnotherapy, and I'm like, I consciously never remembered that. And sometimes you go back to a moment you do remember, but you see it differently when you're in hypnosis, because you're able to kind of get in that observer mode a little easier and see it from the adult that you are now, instead of remembering it as a 2-year-old.
Yeah, I think this is so important now in the world we're living in, and I keep referring to the world we're living in because I don't think 40 years ago anybody thought that we'd be at the pace we're at with processing information and data. I think that was even 20 years ago, but we are here now. So what does that mean, Michelle? That means that we have more opportunities to become more triggered.
Yeah,
right.
We do. We know, right? We know everything that's going on in the whole world. And we never had that before.
I know it's kind of like I felt sorry for Russell Wilson the other day. I mean, why would I even pay attention to Russell Wilson, former Seattle Seahawks quarterback, and the media around him? But you see, just in a flashback, a little news bulletin that flashed through my whatever it is on my phone, right, was enough for me to stop, be distracted, and have an emotion towards that. Wow. I mean, how often is this going on for people?
Oh, yeah. And 24-hour news. It's just inundating us, and it's never positive. So it's like we're feeding our subconscious all these negative stories, and then we're scared of the things that they're talking about. I mean, it's just we're being made to live in fear instead of focusing on what's really around me and really affecting me right now.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we need to care about what's going on in the world, but also we can't always be caring about everything else and not us.
Mm.
Right.
What did you find goes on with this kind of healing and healing the wounds? I know we've talked about attachment and attachment styles before, but I think it's worth a refresher to let folks know this may be what's going on with you, especially in relationships. And by the way, just because your boss is not a romantic lover to you, it doesn't mean you're not going to have relationship triggers about people that are non-partner types that remind us of something, right? I mean, every relationship is an opportunity for growth.
It really is. It's amazing to me. I mean, now that I'm doing this work and, now that I'm in a relationship, it's like I expect to get triggered, and I have been, and I've spent a weekend crying before, because I was triggered. And then I'm like, okay, I know I'm being triggered. I see it. Because I've done mindfulness work, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done coaching. So I know. So yeah, relationships of any kind can show you they're an opportunity. Triggers are an opportunity to see where I need healing. What is it I need healing? What's coming up? Am I feeling anxious? Okay, maybe this is an anxious attachment. Maybe when I was a child, things happened that made me need approval from the other person and needed, constant reassurance. Or maybe when I was a child, I was very disconnected and I had to just become hypervigilantly, independent and do everything on my own and reject everybody and be avoidant, right? And it's like I didn't know what secure attachment felt like. So like, okay, how do I work on this? It's in the relationship that you're working on it. So when you get triggered, you can go, okay, why is this happening? What's coming up? Oh, this is like my dad, or this is like my mom, or this is like my best friend growing up in third grade, or whatever it is, right? I think the universe gives us these opportunities to get triggered to help us heal, right?
Yeah. I love that we're talking about this, because let's walk folks through the role of hypnotherapy, because I don't think many people understand how big or how important. Number one, as a practitioner, as somebody who's certified hypnotherapist, you never really know what's going to show up, do you?
No. Our motto is we deal with what emerges.
Right.
We just never know. I mean, I've recently been working with a bunch of young ladies that are cheerleaders. And, I do my best to not have expectations. And what's interesting is how they each have had different experiences. Some were injured, and that's why they aren't able to, do back handsprings now. Some were yelled at by a coach when they were 10 in front of everybody, and that's why they're not able to do back handsprings. The coach had the opposite effect that they wanted to have because of how they were treating this young lady. And so, yeah, these things come up, these memories come up, and you're just like, oh, wow, I didn't know that was going to come up. I didn't realize that this one person said one thing to me and it created a core memory, like an inside out. And that core memory is now a program, and it's taking control of the, control panel and causing me to do these things because it's afraid of that thing that one person said one time.
Yeah.
And it's magical to watch people go to these moments and feel those things and know what they were feeling, and then go, well, that's just dumb. Why am I doing that? Like the adult self is like able to see, oh, okay, now I can tell 4-year-old me, like, hey, that adult is full of BS and we're ignoring them because you are worthy. You are good enough exactly as you are. You don't need to believe what they're telling you. Because a lot of times it comes down to that worthiness piece and that enoughness. Because if you don't feel like you're good enough, that's just,
you're done. Yeah.
You don't deserve anything. You don't deserve promotions. You don't deserve love. You're not able to accept love. So it's very impactful.
It's very impactful, and it's very impactful and powerful. It's a powerful overshadow of one's life when we're that deeply impacted. And so, part of this process of looking at how to harness this power of hypnosis, it's so important. But the thing that's even more important is, a lot of times you can go through a modality and then you get information, but you don't know what to do. And I think that the approach that you're taking is, it's not just, oh, yeah, look what we found out. Oh, and by the way, here's what you can do about it. Isn't that the next step that's equally important?
Yes,
discovery.
Yes, for sure. Like, and it's a process that I do. I kind of call it parts work. We talk to that part. So we imagine this part is separate from us, because then that's going to create an energy where we can say, okay, this isn't me. This is just a part, a small part. And I can talk to it and I can say, hey, why are you giving me anxiety? And then it goes, oh, well, I'm keeping you safe. And why are you doing that? Because if you are better than other people, they're going to hate you. Okay, well, that's not true. So tell me something else, tell me something else. And then it's like, oh, well, and then, well, you're right. I'm not doing a good job. I'll ask these parts, like, do you think you're doing a good job? And they're usually like, no, or they'll say yes, because she's in danger. If she is seen, she needs to be hidden away and she can't speak her mind. She can't have a voice. And I'm like, no, this isn't true. She's allowed to have a voice. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, she might get killed. Well, that's not true. The chances of that happening are very, very, very minuscule. Like, come on. What do you really think is going to happen here? Talking to it. And I think they're very connected to the nervous system. And then we get those parts to leave, because I'm like, and I think that's the most important part of the session that I do is this parts work and talking to these little parts that are self-sabotaging and making you feel insecure and making you have anxiety to quote unquote protect you. And you're like, no, this isn't protecting me. This is making me unhappy and miserable. And I need you to get out.
Yeah. And I think, see, those are the things you can't discover on your own all that well. And I think that's the most important part of our conversation today. I know I've tried, I know you've tried to do everything by myself to really figure out how to be independent. And then you realize one day, oopsie, that's not it at all. You really would appreciate the help of your people that are close to you in life and looking at it. I mean, that's the thing that is most important about this. We have so many people trying to trudge their way through this and not getting the results that they want.
Hyper-independence is, we need community. We are human and we are communal people, and we need support from each other. And even if it's just somebody lending you an ear and they don't give you an opinion, right?
Well, and a part of this, though, is how do people get a hold of you? Because I think the most important thing is folks have to have a way to reach out to see, what can I do? The thing I want to caution people about is you don't need to have an answer to call Michelle. You call Michelle because you don't have an answer. Right. You don't even know what the question is half the time. What you may experience is dissatisfaction, pain in your heart. Maybe things are not aligned in your life and you just don't know where to turn. That's why we do these shows, Michelle, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How do people get a hold of you?
So I have a website, of course, which is just zenmindmichelle.com. And my email is zenmindmichelle@gmail. Facebook and Instagram are zenmindmichelle is the tag. Also TikTok. I just got a TikTok account. So on all the things is just zenmindmichelle. And I do free discovery calls. They're 20 minutes long on Zoom, so we can meet and see each other, talk about the issue, talk about how I can help. And I love talking to people. I love doing discovery calls. They're just fun.
Well, look, it's more than just fun. The path of life that you've signed up for is one of a healer. You've signed up to be that person that's going to help and support people along the way. And when we're talking about ongoing traumatic relationship symbol, OTRS, we don't even know what we don't know. We just know we're miserable.
Yeah.
We don't know what happens when we get triggered. So what I want to encourage people, and perhaps you can do this as well, is please don't wait to try to find the answer. You don't need to wait to get help. And boy, we're doing a lot of waiting here, Michelle.
Oh, yeah. And it's like having the person, it's all about asking the right questions for me. I want to ask the questions to make you think so we can find that answer inside yourself.
What's your personal message? What do you want to leave us with today? And thank you so much.
Just don't be afraid, to reach out. Don't be afraid to see what situation you're in. Then that, to notice your feelings, start with mindfulness. And there's lots of free practices on YouTube and all the things. But, working with your subconscious mind is the way to really get to feeling better faster. It's a shortcut in the shadow work.
That's it. And getting at the root cause is the way to do that. Oh, yeah. That's how we can knock things out so they don't come back. You see, that's the difference, right?
Oh, yeah. Changing the neural pathways. That's what we're doing. We're changing the ways of thought in your brain.
Yeah, doing it as we speak. Michelle, one more time, give out your website. Thank you for today.
ZenMindMichelle.com, and Michelle's MICHELLE. Just reach out, free discovery calls. Let's talk.
Let's get some healing going on. We're going to take a short break, everybody. Michelle Carboni. I'm Dr. Pat. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Michelle Carboni, a rapid transformational therapist with over 700 hours of training in hypnotherapy, intuition, and coaching. My passion lies in helping you heal yourself. I use hypnotherapy and coaching to help clients healing the inner child to create a fantastic future with intention. Join the Zen Revolution. Transform your life today. It's a community dedicated to supporting each other as we all strive for a more fulfilling, balanced, and Zen-filled life. For more information, visit www.zenmindmichelle.com.